Hello and welcome back to another EDH deck design video. Today I'm going to be showing two videos. I have decided to do a pretty clever duel deck. One thing I've been wanting to do is kind of have a way of getting friends into EDH that have not ever played it. I see a lot of people buying the precons, which is pretty good as long as your opponents are also playing the precons and no one changes the cards, but all too frequently people will just improve the decks immediately. I decided I want to do a dual deck with Akroma. I got the white Akroma here, and I have, of course, my favorites is the red Akroma. So what we have here is an Akroma versus Akroma dual deck, white versus red. I chose to do the white versus red Akromas. There's other options, obviously, like I could do white Krovax versus black Krovax, or the black Miri versus green Miri. Some of those cards and colors obviously give you much more powerful things. White and red are both classically the two worst colors in EDH. Also being the same character, these decks kind of dictate that you're playing Voltron in a style with an aggressive beating general. So I thought that would be very similar in how these decks could play out. In the experimental stages currently, I'll go ahead and show what I have here. I don't play mono white very much, if at all. The last time I ran mono white in EDH was a Jareth, the Leonin Titan guy, quite a few years ago. So there's going to be an experiment to first make the decks equivalent in power. And that's probably going to be the hardest part here. But I'm going to break this into two videos. The red Akroma deck will come up shortly. It is a modified version of a kind of like a budget variation of my good Akroma deck. But of course we have the white Akroma. So what she does, she is an 8 mana costing legendary angel, 5 white for 6/6 flying. The other one is of course very similar. This one, although has first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, pro, black, and red. So she is pro the other Akroma. If you're unfamiliar, the red Akroma is pro white, so they are pro from each other. I tried to make each color, like each deck, kind of capitalize on some of the attributes that color grants them. This is very hard because in a singleton format, I'm in the two colors that don't have an easy tutor or ramp effect. So this kind of, and it's just an Akroma deck with as much good stuff as possible per Akroma. The red deck, I try to go with a one-hit kill mechanic. In this deck, I try to go for a 3-hit kill because I can't fire breathing her. But being that she has haste and windmill slams and vigilant and everything, the idea I put in this deck is to give her at least a +1 power boost, and then swing with her for 3 hits. So we'll leave the red deck alone for now and go through this video. Also, if you didn't see my Devotion Akroma deck, I got fancy sleeves for these. This is kind of why I decided the red to go for the white Akroma, because I get a good matching sleeves to go with the red Akroma sleeves there. These are Ultra Pro sleeves from about 2006. The quality of the sleeves are terrible. I had to get 2 packs just to equal to 100, but out of about a third of the sleeves, most of them had wrinkles and warped effects from being so old. They are also white border, and since I triple sleeve the decks, the Ultra Pro symbol is upside down. Essentially, the sleeve is upside down. But let's go through here. The first thing I'm probably going to have to tinker with, making these two decks compatible with each other, is the number of creatures. This deck has about 22-ish creatures. The red deck does not have nearly as many. Most of these are your classic white cards, just ways of ramping. First strike that usually ramps you, a way of ramping. A replacement effect that ramps you. This may not be very essential for this deck, as I have not played tested it very much, but I do like having the potential blocker for Akroma. Granted, I don't have a way of, both Akromas have trample. I don't have a lot of ways of boosting Pilgrim's Eye, but it's a thing at least. There's more ramp. Now we're going to the good stuff. What white tends to do classically is tax and make up awkward board presences. So Grand Abolisher is a perfect example here. It just makes it so that I can't do anything on this Akroma's turn. There's not a lot of stuff my red deck does on other people's turns, but it's still a pretty good stout creature. Stonecloaker is also a fantastic card for value, just even to return something like a sad robot to hand, or exiling things from graveyards. It's just a generally good card. This is, when I rarely do play white, this is definitely always in the deck. Silver Blade Paladin is there to make this a potential 2-hit kill. Even Mind Sensor is another tax effect. It's one of my favorite cards to play in Modern. Killing tutor effects, essentially, and is a flash flying creature. My red deck obviously doesn't tutor a whole bunch, but in a generically good deck, this is going to make the cut. Windborn Muse is a tax effect. It's pretty nice in what this deck does. The red Akroma Fire Breathes to try and do a one-hit kill. So obviously making this, if she's going to swing, she has to pay 2 more. That's 2 less damage for fire breathing. Angel of Jubilation is one of my favorite cards to run in anything white. It usually has to be mono white though, because that 3 color in here at the top essentially makes it so that people can't pay life or sack creatures. So a fetch land, for example, cannot be activated. Karmic Guide is kind of the second focus of this deck. What I wanted this to become was an animator deck. Because she has haste and vigilance, she just attacks immediately as soon as she comes out. So the idea of her dying, I just wanted all the reanimation effects to get her back. There's a lot of reanimation in this deck. It just so happens Karmic Guide is also an angel, and it kind of fits the theme. There's another pseudo reanimation where I can put a delay to trigger on the stack per board wipe. It's just pretty clever how this one works out. I always love this card. Sunblast Angel is one of the many board wipes in the deck. This is something else I may need to fine-tune. I put quite a few board wipes in this deck. The red Akroma can all too frequently just do a one-hit kill. The problem is that, considering I have haste on her, and it's quite a setup to do one-hit kill. So that gives the white deck quite a few chances to come back and just board wipe. This is another tax effect, doesn't really affect the red deck too much. Angel's Trinity is another good removal. Luckily, this one cannot target the red Akroma. Then we have Twilight Shepard, more reanimation shenanigans, kind of just bouncing things to hand. Battle Grace Angel is our first exalted ability, which gives the Akroma potential +1 boost. A 6 power general would take 4 hits. A 7 power general would take 3 hits to get through for lethal general. So just a +1 exalted is kind of like the lifelink's nice, the body's nice, the card's nice. This is here just for an exalted trigger. Arcana Justice is really good removal. I don't have a sack outlight to bust it, but it's just good. Krovax is a nice Lord boost. Again, it's a +1/+1 boost. That's the main reason he made the cut. The bounce effect is always nice. Sun Titan is just, it's not going to be a mono white deck without Sun Titan. I can't explain this card, so it's busted. Same thing with Elish Norn. More than a +1/+1 boost. This is going to give the red Akroma hell just trying to get through. And last creature is an Eldrazi with a reanimation effect. So I can let Akroma go to the graveyard more and just keep on popping her back. As you saw, that's quite a few creatures. The red deck does not have nearly this number of creatures. Let's go on to the spells. So Akroma is immune to Condemn, but Condemn is such a powerful card that I had to put in the deck. Same thing with Unexpectedly Absent. Akroma is mono or pro white, so this doesn't do much, but this helps get rid of problem permanents. Then we, of course, I love exiling things. Cryptops is usually not played because the mana cost is high, but of course there's Swords and Path, the 2/1 drop, or 1 costing exiles. And Oblation is another thing that just can't target Akroma, but it's going to get rid of a lot of problem stuff that the mono red deck throws out there. This one could go for one of the opponents, but this is more or less to save my Akroma or something else I want to return. It's a delayed return, so I could even do this just to ramp a little bit more with like Sad Robot. When I initially started doing this deck, I had all sorts of themey cards. I wanted to make it the white Akroma deck. I was even running these guys just because they had Akroma in the artwork. I ended up taking them out because they're just not suitable for EDH. Akroma's Blessing, although, is a situational card. I could just pay 1 and cycle it, but gaining protection saves me from lots of removal and whatnot. And it's all my creatures, just not one creature, so it's pretty decent. If you know me, I like exiling things, so getting potential 2 targets for enchantments and artifacts is fantastic. And then there's some more reanimation spell. Divine Death, they just kind of reprinted a dragon variant of this in the Fate Reforged block, but this one is specific for it returns any card from my grave or creature, but if it's an angel, it gets +2 counters. So that could save me giving her an 8 power. If I've already hit with her once, then the 8 power means I only have to hit 2 more times. Resurrection is the original reanimation spell from way back in Alpha. I like this one. It looks really nice. Breath of Life is the second reanimation spell. This one, again, it only targets things in my graveyard. That's what the white ones do. Can't target the opponent stuff, but this one also is a third reanimation spell just for her. Then we have lots of board wipes here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. This one I need to be careful with because I can destroy some support of my own. 5 potentially. 5 board wipes and 2 tuck spells. These are also 2 situational cards. As a mono white deck, these are really good against the opponents. The problem is I was trying to make these decks equal in power, and the mono red deck does not have a good answer for these 2 cards, other than trying not to cast the Akroma until this Akroma is already on the battlefield. And this is probably my biggest problem I'm running into making these compatible with each other, because that already means that this Akroma's probably had a chance to hit because she comes out and you swing. I don't know. I need to find some way of taking... I don't really want to take these out because that grossly lowers the power of the deck. These are fantastic staples in EDH, but mono red doesn't have a way of dealing with these 2 cards. And losing the red Akroma to the bottom of the deck, I don't really have a way of getting her back. So these 2 may not last if this is going to stay as a dual deck, if I cannot find a good resolution or way around this for Akroma. And I don't think stuffing sack outlets for a red Akroma is really ideal. Let's go on to the enchantments. There are quite a few. I love Aura Silence. I love tax effects. And something like this in EDH is super douchebaggy and early if you ramp it out, because it kills Artifact Accelerant. Not just them having to play it, but all of a sudden waiting to cast a Sad Robot for 6 doesn't really sound too good. This is another effect that mono red is sorely missing. They have the Journeyer's Kite mono red, but something like this on a turn 1, it's grossly overpowered in comparison. Pacifism, of course, I wanted to run this again because the artwork's fantastic. Not super efficient in EDH, but it fits the theme. Angelic Renewal is another reanimation effect where I can sack the enchantment and return something to play, for example, Akroma. Ghostly Prison goes with the Muse, where I has a tax effect to attack me. Marshal's Anthem is, I believe, our last reanimation effect, where I can pop something back and possibly give it a +1 to all my creatures. Again, that +1/+1 is essentially the reason this made the cut, just to give her one less combat step required. True Conviction is mostly just a busted card when you compare this to all the mono red counterparts. For example, there is Rage Reflection, which is a 6 mana costing enchantment that gives creatures double strike I have. For some reason, the white one gives them lifelink as well. And I know there's a time difference when those were printed, but it's still kind of yeah, this is a very strong enchantment. And then we're going on to the artifacts, but this is still an enchantment. Pseudo target removal, again, cannot target the red Akroma with this, but it's a +1/+1 effect, so it made the cut. Let's go on to the few artifacts. Not nearly as many artifacts in this deck as the red deck has. Of course, I want to keep her safe from board wipe, so Dark Steel Plate made the cut. Not a lot of equipment, but again, Batterskull is just a generically really powerful effect. I definitely want it in there. Then we have some ramp. My favorites are the Baubles and the Soul Ring. I can't really abuse the Bauble with like Valakut in this deck, but it's still Artifact Accelerant that replaces itself to land. Marble Diamond and Mindstone are my 2-drops. I like this one because it will replace itself later. And I'm putting Commander Sphere in a lot of my decks because I like the ability to just sack it to draw a card late game. Then we have some mana doublers. These are the only 2 in this deck. The mono red deck obviously has more. These are again really good. The +1/+1 effect makes it a 3-hit kill instead of a 4-hit kill, and the doubling the mana has really helped. Nice to get her out. And then we have these 2 for card draw, Mind's Eye and Staff of Nin. Lastly, we have lands. There are 38 lands in both the red and the white Akroma deck. A lot of basics, but there's also a lot of support lands. I like this one simply because it just gives you 2 extra mana. I did not have any Ancient Tombs I was going to put in here. I just don't have enough to go around. A Terrain Generator made the cut simply because I'm playing land tax, and that helps me ramp. Cathedral of War made the cut. It's a tap land, but it is an exalted land. Just this land alone makes Akroma a 3-hit kill. Emria is really kind of disgustingly busted. It's a pseudo reanimation effect if I have enough lands out. So this is just hard to deal with, really. And this is the last problem card I'm running into in this deck. Corehaven, the red Akroma deck doesn't have a lot of answers for this. I don't think I have any way of giving the red Akroma Shrouder hexproof currently in the list. It does run Ruination, although. And it also runs the Blood Moon effects. So those 2 effects could stop this one card. To be honest, that's really not enough because there's no way of tutoring in any of these decks. And if this card can't be dealt with, then the red deck's going to fail. So this is something I need to go through again and reconsider, or maybe consider improving the red Akroma's deck. I don't really want to lower the power of the decks. I want to increase the power until they are equal with each other. And that's kind of hard to do, essentially because with mono red there's only so much you can do, and mono white the tax effects can become unbearable. The only reason this is in here is because I like the set symbol. I got the I traded for the mono white version of the pre-printed precon, so all of my lands are the Urza Cycle ones. I had to get a few extra to complete the full set, but I love the Urza Cycle lands. If you put them next to each other, there's a really nice picture. My favorite, of course, are the mountains, but the plains look good too. But, again, this is going to be a two-part video, so this part's just the white Akroma. How this deck has panned out so far in playtesting, it's just like the red Akroma. Ramp up until you have Akroma, haste out, beat face, hope you have a +1/+1 effect, so it only takes 3 hits. There are some double strike effects, so it may take less, but that's your kind of average deck. So putting these guys out against each other, the red versus white, it's super fun because they cannot touch each other, and they just swing right past each other too. The problem, of course, is the red Akroma deck has a very high tendency to just one-hit kill you, and if this deck cannot put up solid defense, it's going to fail. And of course, they both have trample, so even something like the Pilgrim's Eye is not going to be an efficient way of defending them. The white deck, although I'm thinking currently in this state the white deck is stronger, because there's just so many board wipes and so much recursion that it's going to be a better dragged out game. So if they take care of the red decks, like doubling damage or doubling mana effects, then this deck may still have a better edge. And the tax effects on there are probably more devastating. This is going to take more playtesting to confirm, but for now, in my opinion, I think the white deck may be stronger. I'll have to play with it more. But if you have any suggestions, check out this second video as well. See if you have any ideas of ways of making this deck stronger. I don't want to put very specific hate cards in either deck against the opponent, the opposite deck. I just want them to both be generically good decks against each other and also my opponents as well. But if you have any ideas how to improve the strength of this deck, other than, of course, taking it apart and making it an actual good white deck, definitely let me know, okay?